Pack your things by Friday, because we are giving this estate to your sister, my mother orders, standing on my front porch with a locksmith, a massive moving truck, and a set of brand new keys gleaming in her hand. My father stands right beside her, his arms crossed, a cruel smirk playing on his lips as he surveys my sprawling front lawn. Family assets belong to the family, he adds, his voice booming with absolute arrogance. You do not deserve this much luxury all to yourself. They stare at me, expecting the usual obedience, expecting me to simply bow my head and surrender my home. They just do not realize that I am already 3 steps ahead of them, and the county sheriff is standing right inside my hallway. Thank you for watching this video. Before I take you back there, do me one small favor. Take a second to like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you are watching from and what time it is where you are. It helps more than you know. My name is Sloan, and I am 29 years old. For my entire life, I was the designated scapegoat of my family. I was the invisible workhorse, the quiet problem solver meant to carry all the heavy burdens while my younger sister, Tamsin, wore the golden crown. I am a vice president of risk management at a major corporate firm. My parents always dismissed my career, assuming I just sat in a cubicle crunching numbers all day. They had absolutely no idea that my entire profession is built on identifying vulnerabilities, anticipating disasters, and setting impenetrable traps for hostile threats. Growing up, the dynamic in our household was completely fixed. My mother, Margaret, was the grand orchestrator of our lives, a woman who wore a flawless mask of maternal perfection to the outside world but ruled our home with sheer emotional manipulation. My father, Richard, was her heavy enforcer. He was a retired contractor who believed entirely in his own absolute authority. And then there was Tamsin. Tamsin was the golden child, the undeniable center of their universe. If Tamsin wanted something, the earth shifted to provide it. If I needed something, I was told I was being selfish. The contrast was absolutely staggering. When Tamsin wanted a new car, my parents drained a massive portion of their savings to buy her a luxury sedan. When my transmission blew, my father told me to take the bus. When Tamsin failed out of her first business venture, leaving behind a mountain of debt, my parents quietly paid it off. When I worked 3 separate jobs to put myself through university, they did not even attend my graduation because Tamsin had a minor cold and needed her mother. For years, I swallowed the profound injustice. I played my role. I kept the peace. My therapist eventually suggested that I start keeping a ghost ledger, a private document where I tracked every single broken promise, every stolen opportunity, and every loan that was never repaid. The numbers were utterly horrifying. Tamsin owed me over $40,000 in borrowed cash. I had been uninvited from 23 family gatherings because Tamsin found my presence too stressful. I was completely drained of my spirit. I was prey in a forest of predators, constantly walking into their snares just to feel a tiny crumb of familial acceptance. But 3 years ago, I finally stopped seeking their approval. I put my head down and focused entirely on my career. I climbed the corporate ladder with brutal efficiency. I saved every bonus, every commission, every spare dollar I earned. And last year, I bought my sanctuary. It is a stunning $1.5 million estate in the quiet suburbs of Atlanta. It has sprawling gardens, massive oak trees, and iron security gates. I put down $300,000 in pure cash. The day I signed the paperwork, my parents insisted on driving me to the office. They claimed they wanted to support me. In reality, they sat in the waiting room for 10 minutes, complained that the process was taking too long, and went across the street to get coffee. They did not read a single document. They did not sign a single page. They simply assumed that because I was their daughter, my massive success was naturally an extension of their own empire. The peace I found in that house was immense. For the first time in my life, I felt safe. But the predators were always circling. Tamsin recently got engaged to a man who comes from a very wealthy family. True to her nature, she immediately began spending money she did not have to project an image of absolute royalty. She racked up over $80,000 in secret credit card debt just on wedding planning. Her fiancé was starting to ask questions about her finances. My parents were in a state of sheer panic. They could not afford to buy her a house to match her lies, and they could not let the wealthy future in-laws discover that their golden child was completely broke. That is when they set their eyes on my estate. I found out about their plan by pure accident. I had stopped by their house to drop off a birthday gift for my father. The front door was slightly ajar. As I stood on the porch, I heard my mother talking on speakerphone with Tamsin. I froze. My blood ran completely cold. "Do not worry about the house, sweetheart," my mother was saying, her voice dripping with sweet poison. "Your father and I are handling Sloane. She is single. She does not need a massive estate all to herself. We will just move her out and put you in. We are family and family shares." I did not barge in. I did not scream. I did not shed a single tear. The old Sloane, the desperate prey, died in that exact moment. The risk manager took over. I walked quietly back to my car, completely calm. My heart was a block of absolute ice. I went home and made one phone call to Sheriff Alden. Sheriff Alden had been my mentor in a youth leadership program when I was a teenager. He was the one who wrote my college recommendation letters. He knew my family history entirely. When I explained the conversation I had overheard, he was absolutely silent for a long moment. Then he gave me a very specific set of instructions. We set the trap. We waited for the predators to walk right into the snare. Which brings us back to Saturday morning, 9:47 a.m. The heavy doorbell rings. I open the heavy wooden door to find the circus assembled on my front lawn. My mother is clutching a set of shiny new keys. The locksmith is standing awkwardly by his van. My father is looking at my gorgeous landscaping like he already owns it. "Pack your things by Friday, because we are giving this estate to your sister," my mother demands. The mask of the polite neighborhood mother is completely gone. She looks at me with sheer entitlement. "Tamsin needs this estate more than you do. She is starting a family. You are just one person." I stand perfectly still. I look at the moving boxes stacked in the back of my father's truck. I feel absolutely nothing. "I bought this house," I say. My voice is quiet, flat, and completely steady. My father laughs, a harsh, dismissive sound that used to make me shrink in terror. "Do not be ridiculous, Sloane. Family assets belong to the family. You do not deserve this much luxury all to yourself. We helped you with the paperwork. We are the co-signers. Now be a good girl and stop making this difficult." They expect me to crumble. They expect the heavy weight of their authority to crush my resistance. The locksmith steps forward, looking extremely uncomfortable. "Ma'am," he says to my mother, "I am going to need to see some proof of ownership before I start drilling into these custom locks." "I am her mother," Margaret snaps, her voice shrill with sudden irritation. "I have power of attorney over her affairs. Start drilling." Actually, she does not. A deep, booming voice echoes from behind me. The sheer shock on my parents' faces is absolutely priceless. The color drains completely from my mother's cheeks. My father takes a sudden, staggering step backward. Sheriff Alden steps out from the shadows of my grand hallway, fully in uniform, his hand resting casually on his utility belt. He walks out onto the porch, towering over my father. The atmosphere shifts instantly. The family drama has officially ended, and the absolute reality of the law has arrived. "Morning, folks," Sheriff Alden says, his tone completely professional and icy cold. "I received a call regarding a potential trespassing and property dispute at this address." My mother scrambles to put her mask back on. Her face twists into a grotesque, forced smile. "Oh, Sheriff, there is no need for law enforcement. This is just a minor family misunderstanding. My daughter is just being a little stubborn about relocating so her sister can utilize this family property." "Is that so?" Sheriff Alden asks. He turns to the locksmith. "Sir, did these individuals provide you with a deed of trust, a title, or any federal or county documentation proving ownership of this estate?" The locksmith vigorously shakes his head and practically runs back to his van. "No, sir. I am out of here. He speeds down the driveway, leaving my parents entirely exposed. My father puffs out his chest, trying to reclaim his shattered empire. Now listen here, officer. We co-signed the mortgage on this property. We have every legal right to be here and to make decisions regarding its occupancy. Sheriff Alden does not smile. He reaches into his uniform pocket and pulls out a crisp, folded document. He opens it slowly. That is a very interesting claim, sir, Alden says, his voice ringing with absolute authority. Because I pulled the official county records from the precinct yesterday morning. And according to the federal and county deed of trust, there is exactly one name listed as the sole proprietor of this $1.5 million estate. He turns the paper around so the bold, black ink is entirely visible. Sloane Marie. No cosigners. No guarantors. No family trust. Just her. The silence that follows is utterly deafening. It is the sound of an entire lifetime of manipulation completely shattering into a million pieces on my front porch. That is impossible, my mother gasps, her mask slipping completely off. Her eyes are wide with sheer panic. We were there. We helped with the paperwork. You drank coffee across the street, I say, my voice slicing through the crisp morning air. Because you were too bored to sit through the closing. I qualified for this mortgage entirely on my own, with my own income and my own $300,000 down payment. My father stammers, his face turning a deep, dangerous shade of purple. But you're our daughter. Everything you have is part of this family. You assumed it was yours, I reply, my tone completely frozen. Because for 29 years, you assumed I existed solely to provide for Tamsin. You taught her that irresponsibility is rewarded. You taught me that my hard work will just be stolen. But you are not taking my sanctuary. My mother bursts into dramatic, hysterical tears. It is the exact same tactic she has used for decades to make me feel profound guilt. How can you be so utterly cold to your own flesh and blood? Family does not do this. Family does not bring a locksmith to steal your house, I reply, totally unfazed by her weeping. Sheriff Alden steps forward, completely closing the distance between him and my father. Let me make the legal situation absolutely clear for you folks. Attempting to claim ownership of a property that does not belong to you and attempting to force an illegal eviction by changing the locks constitutes real estate fraud. It is a felony. Furthermore, you are currently trespassing on private property. My father looks like he has been physically struck. The booming patriarch is completely gone, replaced by a terrified, small man facing a county sheriff. If you do not remove yourselves and your moving truck from this property in exactly 1 minute, Alden continues, his hand resting on his radio, I will have you both arrested and processed at the county jail. They do not say another word. The retreat is absolutely pathetic. My father practically drags my weeping mother to his truck. They peel out of my driveway, their tires screeching in sheer defeat. They leave behind nothing but the quiet rustle of the oak trees and the absolute certainty that they will never, ever control me again. I did not let it end there. When dealing with predators, you must ensure the gates are locked forever. I immediately installed high-end perimeter cameras. I instructed my legal counsel to draft an airtight cease and desist order, warning them that any further contact would result in an immediate restraining order. A few weeks later, my mother, completely unhinged by her loss of control, actually went to the local precinct to file a fraudulent claim, stating I had stolen her house. The detective on duty, who was a close colleague of Sheriff Alden, demanded to see her documentation. When she provided absolutely nothing, he informed her that filing a false police report was a serious federal offense. She fled the station in sheer terror and never tried it again. 6 months later, I am sitting in my grand living room, watching the morning sun spill across the hardwood floors. The house is completely silent, save for the gentle breathing of my new rescue dog, a massive golden retriever who finally gives me the unconditional loyalty my family never did. I recently received another major promotion at the firm. My life is entirely peaceful, deeply successful, and completely my own. Meanwhile, their empire has utterly crumbled. Tamsin's wealthy fiancé discovered her mountain of secret debt and immediately called off the wedding. My parents, desperate to save face and keep their golden child happy, drained their retirement accounts to buy her a tiny, cramped apartment on the bad side of town. They are now working well past their retirement age, drowning in the financial ruin they created for themselves. They expected me to be their eternal victim. They had no idea that when you push the quiet ones to the absolute edge, they do not just bite back. They build a fortress, and they lock the gates forever. I have built my fortress, and I have peace that no amount of their money or manipulation could ever buy. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you have ever had to set a hard boundary with toxic family members who tried to take advantage of you, tell me about it in the comments below. Do not forget to hit like and subscribe for more stories where justice is finally served, and I will see you in the next one.